Hello and welcome to History's Greatest Idiots, the podcast in which we look back on the greatest mistakes in human history and give you lessons that you can learn from so you never make the same mistakes again. But who are we kidding? We're humans. We make mistakes all the time, and actually a lot of the time, that's how we learn. And sometimes they're quite fun, aren't they? Joining me as ever is my amazing co-host, Derek. How are you doing, buddy? How's everything over there?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Got the
Excellent.
monsoon storms rolling through here, so it's cooled off for us.
Oh,
Um,
dude,
so that's been nice.
I'm so jealous. I could
I know that's
do
been.
with a monsoon right now. It's currently 88 degrees over in the UK, and unlike you guys down in Arizona, we do not have air conditioning and we do not have a breeze, and I am finding various different ways of trying to cool myself down short of sacrificing something to some deity. It's
I feel like I can feel it through the.
oh yeah,
the,
yeah.
the
I'm pretty certain
interweb
anyone
spirit.
who is listening and watching, particularly those who are watching, will be able to sense that I am struggling with the heat. However, that's hopefully it'll only last a few more days because I have 4 meetings tomorrow, and it's going to be 30 degrees again. So I'm going to have to basically like have a cold shower between each meeting, I think, to cope with the day.
Oh, man,
Yeah, that is,
yeah, that'd get
and
rough.
the Zoom meetings, so you have to look good. You know, you can't like
Uh,
show up in your pajamas for clients and stuff. So,
you could jump into the ice box in
oh,
between,
that'd be
hang
so
out.
good.
Keep your. Ooh, you could rotate out your shirts
Yes,
in the
I could
freezer.
do it like a Christina Aguilera at an MTV Awards. You could have multiple costume changes. That would
There
be
you go.
great. Amazing
Problem
idea.
solving here.
Yeah. So, this week it is episode 13, which, you know, there's probably luck elements involved in that. Derek, as our 13th episode, who is your subject of, stupidity and idiocy this week? Who
And
have you got?
now I'm actually kind of worried because I hadn't thought about this is the 13th episode,
13th. I know.
lucky 13.
Yeah.
This is mine is a current serving US representative.
Okay.
So gosh, I hope that's not unlucky for me. But you would expect that our representatives would be a wide array of diverse individuals that make things work because they're like a cross section of America, right?
I would hope so.
I
Yes.
mean, that's the purpose. They're the
Yeah. They
representatives.
represent the people and all the people, not just the old rich white people.
Right. And you would think that that's a great thing, but if you drill down a little bit further and
Mm,
you start to remember that, well, some folks are a little bit off,
sure.
we'll say.
Yeah.
They're special, but
Sure.
not like a snowflake.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe like a snowflake too. Anyway, but I'd like to think that those people are represented, but not like by those folks.
Sure.
Like I want them to have a voice, but I don't
Yeah.
want them to be in Washington making the laws.
No, no, no. We were over in this country. We were aware of the Tea Party, and that's what it looked like for a while. That the kind of the winds of madness has swept across a portion of America, and some of them have made their way into the powers of the halls of power. So
And it's a strange time for me, like
right,
because I like to look at things from all the different angles,
of course, which is good, which is
So,
healthy.
I didn't want to jump into anybody too modern.
Sure.
I feel kind of like I'm cheating here because everybody loves to talk about this one, but she just keeps piling on the crazy shit.
Oh,
So
we're on to our second ever female. This is
yes, it
interesting.
is a woman.
Wow. Okay.
Um, sorry, ladies, that this is a representative for you, but she was born in Midgetville, Georgia, on May 27th, 1974,
Okay.
and from all accounts, led a relatively normal upper middle class sort of life in the state of Georgia.
Okay.
Uh, she graduated from the University of Georgia with a bachelor's in business administration in 1996,
All right.
and then she kind of went to work for her dad's company when she met her husband, and they kind of took over there for a while.
Good old
Fast forward
nepotism.
to Yeah, well, it works, I
Oh,
suppose.
and she's got a good degree, so yeah, that's. I don't have any issue with anyone using their degree, if especially if it's a legate for the family business. Why not? That's fine. I'm okay with that kind of nepotism.
Plus, she's got to get uh, like ready for her time in Washington, get comfortable with the idea of nepotism, maybe. Because in 2016, she starts to get involved with the politics, and more specifically, the 2016 Republican presidential primaries.
Oh,
Yeah, nepotism.
yeah, central right there.
So she starts to get involved in more weird shit on top of her involvement in the presidential primaries. And in early 2017, she starts up with the American Truth Seekers website, which is a conspiracy news, fake news based website for folks that don't know.
Okay.
She's known to be a regular contributor and authored over 50 articles for the site.
Wow.
And then she went on to contribute for a pro police fake news website in 2018 called The Law Enforcement Today.
To, as opposed
Spreads,
to yesterday.
yeah, well, with more how to not get caught with systemic racism, I suppose, might
Yeah,
be
yeah.
one of their articles. Um, Additionally, she was a top official for the Family America Project and the moderator of their Facebook group. You might have heard about them in the news because in that group, there were numerous members that posted death threats against various Democrats.
Oh my god.
They engaged in a whole bunch of bigotry towards the Obamas
Oh.
and kind of started kicking out some of the early governmental conspiracies that have really kind of taken hold,
Like
I guess,
Q and
here
on
right
and all
now.
that.
Right.
Mm.
So I guess um, you wouldn't be surprised then when I say that she got really into that too.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
At this point, I really can't keep it a secret anymore because I just want to dive into the crazy shit that
Go for it.
she's done. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, you may have heard
Ah,
of her,
yeah.
U.S. representative from Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, Super into conspiracy theories, and I kind of tried to dive into the big ones that she's kicked out, like Pizzagate,
Pizzagate
which,
is hilarious.
if folks don't know what that is,
Yes, please
um,
explain.
she posted directly about the what is it? The U.S. government's infiltrated by communists
Sure.
and the liberal representatives
Hmm.
and ultra elite. Um,
Who were all Republicans, as far as I can tell, but carry on, please.
but they were also Satan
Oh,
worshippers
of
and
course they're that old chestnut. Okay.
child diddling,
Of course.
bathing in the blood of children,
Oh, it's
cannibals, of
Bohemia
course.
Grove all over again. Right, okay. Yeah.
And most importantly, all of that was taking place. They were getting together in a basement of a Washington, D.C. pizza restaurant.
Why are
Uh,
people if they're the elite, right? Wouldn't they just use I don't know the stuff under Denver Airport or Bohemia like actual Bohemia Grove where actual elites gather? Why would they use a fucking pizza basement?
right. Well, the crazy shit is that there's not even a basement on the building of that pizza joint in
Amazing,
D.C. And they
amazing.
found that out because some of the stuff that she was propagating drove a dude to storm the pizza joint
Oh
with
my god.
assault weapon,
Oh my
trying
god.
to save the children. But nobody was killed. He was only slightly injured and arrested.
Sorry,
But
he went
I
there to
mean,
save the children with assault
yeah,
weapons in a
oh
basement.
yeah. Well, the super elite were down there diddling and eating them after bathing in their blood, so we had to get in there and get
Jesus.
them out.
Oh
And
my god.
that's one of the QAnon
Yeah.
conspiracies that Marjorie Taylor Greene pushed forward, and that was before she became a congressperson in
Mm.
2019. She
Jeez.
officially started in 2020. She showed up her first day with one of the face masks, which she wore. Um,
Okay, great. Yeah.
that said Trump won, and that was
Oh.
on January 3rd, like just before the inauguration,
So it was an
because
attention thing on her first day.
kind of.
Yeah.
And then she's been seen outside of the doors of some of the other more liberal representatives yelling random shit about them being communists and needing
Let's
to take off their diaper and just stuff you wouldn't really think a lawmaker would be
No.
involved in. I mean, they're a leader of like the free country
Also,
world.
those are your fucking colleagues. What are you
Right.
doing?
Think about if you did that at work.
Can you
Like, if you're just
imagine?
pounding on the other
The
editor's
second in
door.
charge's door, you're a fucking communist. Like, communism has never really been a thing, and it's never truly existed, and it certainly hasn't existed in this country for a very long time. So, Jesus. That's hilarious.
So she's doing all of that, and then January 6th happens.
Oh, God.
And for folks that don't know or weren't paying attention, the Capitol, the United States Capitol building, Congress and Senate, was stormed and overrun by protesters that were supporting Trump and, oddly enough, QAnon stuff still. Like, they're waiting for a storm to come and all of this stuff. But they dive in so deep, and she posts tweets like right after the riot, where she sheltered in place without a mask because she was like, "You guys, you're all getting COVID." She tweeted right after, "Democrats must be held accountable for their political violence and inspired by their rhetoric."
What is she talking about?
Apparently, she thinks that they were not her supporters and Trump supporters in that line of thinking that stormed in.
Is she going to say it was an Antifa false flag thing? Yeah.
There you go.
That
because
bullshit.
She loves false flag stuff because she's using that to say that's what they use to push gun control. Sandy Hook didn't happen. That's
another one. Oh, does she think that the kids are crisis actors, like Alex fucking Jones said? Oh, no. Yep. Oh, I hate this woman.
And she's in there making laws, right? Now, it seems hilarious on the surface, and everybody's making fun of her, but there's like a darker, dangerous aspect to
Absolutely there is. She's in the halls of power again. This woman believes all sorts of random crazy shit. Unbelievable.
And the scary part of that is that she's bringing validity and normalization to thinking the crazy kind of shit. So, she tweeted out about Jewish space lasers.
Oh, no.
Controlling the weather. So that's why
I was waiting for the anti-Semitism to creep in. I was waiting for it. But, like, the whole, like, eating children, bathing in blood, world elites control everything. John Ronson wrote a book called Them, which is a great book about conspiracy theories. And it's the same book where he storms Bohemia Grove with a pre-InfoWars Alex Jones. And he sees a bunch of powerful old dudes pissing against trees and getting drunk and having a good time. And Alex Jones witnesses a human sacrifice, even though John Ronson was like, no, that wasn't a human sacrifice. That was pumped in through audio, and that was a papier-mâché doll, and nobody died. It was all fake. It's like, no, they're Satanists. So, like, if you read that book, a lot of the conspiracy theories that people pump out when they talk about world elites and bankers and bathing in blood and child sacrifice, a lot of it, unfortunately, centers around anti-Semitic tropes that have been around for a few hundred years and that people have used since the dawn of time to discriminate against Jewish people. And, you know, we can go into depth about, you know, the current situation in Israel, which is incredibly complicated, but anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, they're kind of the backbone of pretty much every conspiracy theory that now exists. And it's weird that she would go from the usual standard tropes of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories to Jewish space lasers, which...
Right.
What?
That's straight up aluminum foil, tinfoil hat wearing
no doubt
theory level right there. So it concerns me that, you know, she's leading or involved in making laws that could put people in prison or take people out or keep people out.
It should be concerning to everyone, like really.
She was recently removed from her committee assignment. And right. And in response to that,
did she tweet something?
She actually put out a quote of, "I woke up early this morning, literally laughing, thinking about what a bunch of morons the Democrats, plus 11, are for giving someone like me free time. Um,
In a way, I agree with her because she might go and shoot up a nursery or some crazy shit like that. But also, like, um, I have to the first part of that statement. Who wakes up early in the morning laughing, other than people who are actually insane? Really?
Facts right there.
You know, who wakes up? Ah, those fools! You sound like a fucking Bond villain.
Right?
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, space lasers.
Space
Well,
lasers,
no, wait,
Jewish
that was
space
Austin
lasers.
Powers. So she's all over, saying basically, I'm gonna get you for
With what?
taking her from the community or the committees for review. And
Sure.
the plus 11 is the 11 other Republicans that were like, no, you're batshit crazy. You're right too.
The ones that
Um,
saw sense and said, right, we have to work with these people across the aisle now, so why don't we actually kind of not call them Satanist child eating whatever the fuck, you know, we actually need to make this country better, like Trump was
right.
talking about for years. So why don't we try and work with our colleagues across the aisle? She's like, no, burn them all. I'm going to stand outside their office and we on the door or some crazy shit. I don't know.
And the thing too with the giving someone like me free time, that actually is like a
That's
scary thing
Yeah,
because
that's like FBI alert level threat right there.
it's the type of behavior that you've seen with dangerous people from
Oh yeah.
Jim Jones to Adolf himself, you
Yeah.
know, which is actually fitting because of her links to extreme anti-Muslim and anti-Semitic groups and comments and things that she's made.
So she's anti-Muslim. She's anti-Semitic. She does not like Democrats. I'm assuming she probably isn't pro-LGBTQI plus.
Nope. She's
Nope.
currently in a feud with Caitlyn Jenner about transgender not being a thing, and
Oh
actually
God.
attacked another colleague's, I believe it was child, while they were visiting, saying about using the bathroom, being a
Oh
transgender
God.
person.
So she's
Um,
essentially the only people she likes are wasps, basically.
um, I don't even. The only people she likes are batshit crazy people, I think.
Not
um,
even wasps. Amazing.
yeah, because some of them, it's like, I think would go.
Get away from me.
No, I don't know.
I'm
And
going to the country club. Leave me alone.
it sucks because I've been in groups where we're standing around and we want to make a change and we're saying something, and then Bob to the left says some just crazy outlandish shit, and you're like, well, no, not him though. And then people to your other side say it, and you're like, oh, well, I didn't understand what I was getting into. I've got to go back over here.
Yeah.
But that's not the case because she's coming out and saying that the COVID vaccinations, she's pushing that she's using Nazi era imagery to say that's the way that Biden's rolling out the new COVID vaccination protocol. I'm not sure the correlation. I think she was trying to be ironic. I don't know.
I think maybe
she wants
she's
to be a
trying to be
hipster too.
inflammatory, but like I don't see the link between a massive rollout of immunization and fascism. Like you
Putting people in camps, I guess. Just
that's yeah,
I
but
don't
even that's weird because no one's in a camp. You know,
know.
people are walking freely and saying, "I'm not going to get vaccinated. I'm going to walk wherever the hell I want without a mask on." No one's sticking you in
Yeah.
a camp.
And that's part of what it makes it so dangerous is that she's in a position of power. People look up to her and say, hey, this is a leader. I can believe and trust in what she's saying. And if a person like this is saying it, you could see how it could gain a little bit of steam and turn into a bad thing,
The thing is,
which makes it
yeah. Sorry, what were you going to say?
especially troubling since recently she's supporting racism, anti-Semitism, false flag operations to push gun control so that the communists that have infiltrated can take over, and then this new feud with the LBGTQ plus.
Sure.
I think I said it wrong.
LGBTQI plus. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
The people that just want to be people that want to be
Yeah.
themselves.
Just want to
So,
be free from harassment and live a normal life.
just do what I want to do at any given time, as long as I'm not fucking with anybody else. And I
Exactly.
think that's the right way to be.
Yeah, isn't that kind of the foundation of America? Essentially,
Yeah.
let me do
You
what I
would,
want to
yeah,
do and leave me alone as long as I don't fuck with anyone. That's kind of the founding fathers right there, right? Also, don't
think that
tax us
might
if we're not going to get represented.
right. I think that first bit there might be the actual definition of freedom.
Yeah, let me do what I want as long as I don't hurt anyone. That's kind of biblical level freedom, to be quite honest. That's 10 Commandments. Don't kill your neighbor and get along with them, basically. Um, I just
Yeah, and don't if your neighbor is saying stuff like, "Do we get to hang them now, Hillary and Obama?"
oh my
Um,
god.
don't say stuff like, "Quote: The stage is being set, players are being put in place, but we must be patient. This must be done perfectly, or liberal judges will let them off."
That's
End
Trump,
quote.
right? Or is that her?
No, that was her responding to a
Even
tweet
Trump
on
wouldn't
that
say that.
Facebook page. Right, because they're also doing this thing that I hate of um like leaving themselves an out,
Mm,
being an asshole but saying, "Oh, I'm just joking." They're leaving a
no.
little bit of plausible deniability, which is one of the reasons I think why
Mm,
nobody in leadership was like brought up on any charges for the
yeah.
rushing of the Capitol.
Yeah.
Because they didn't come right out and say, "Hey, go be violent in protest and take
Exactly,
the
yeah.
Capitol," but they did say stuff like, "We need to take our house back."
I know.
um,
And then people died. So,
right. Um,
um, I feel like yes, they will have got away with it because they've been somewhat clever in that respect. But history will not look back kindly on these people. It really won't. So
right.
what's she up to now? Is that kind of where the story ends? She's currently in limbo, waking up laughing every morning
And feuding on Twitter with Caitlyn Jenner, and
with
that was the
Caitlyn
most
Jenner.
recent. Yeah.
Jesus
So
Christ!
what what uh what what do you give me on this special?
I do like a good current idiot. I really do. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I have this thing about conspiracy theories. I have a kind of a 2-point theory on why people kind of get into them and why I don't. The first point is that I think conspiracy theories give humanity and human beings either too much or too little credit, depending on the theory. It oversimplifies everything because the fact of the matter is the truth of any situation throughout history, it's never clear cut and it always resists simplicity. So if people are like, well, the pyramids are amazing. They're so accurate. Look at the angles they're in. Those stones weigh thousands and thousands of pounds. And how could they have possibly moved them there? And Stonehenge, where did that? How did they get the stones there? Must have been built by aliens. First of all,
Right.
I know that's my favorite one because it's so stupid. It assumes the existence of an extraterrestrial species that we have absolutely no proof exists, but we have the proof of human achievement in front of us, but we can't
Right.
believe it because how could they have done that so many thousands of years ago? Well, for one thing, the idea that because there are multiple pyramids all over the world, it must have been one alien race that made them, kind of precludes the fact that humans tend to think alike. So
Right.
that's why there were multiple people who can claim ownership of the invention of the telephone or
Right.
the invention of television or mathematic problems being thought up by different people across the world because humans have a very set way of thinking about things, and it's the reason we've evolved to the point of being the most dominant species on the planet is because we tend to think in a problem-solving way. And when you have a lot of innovators alive, some of those innovators are going to think in exactly the same way. And the other thing
No, I
is,
like to say it's collective conscious.
yeah, a collective conscious. Absolutely, that's exactly what you're talking about. And also, what happens with conspiracy theories is people will take a grain of truth about the thing, and they will take that to be the core of it, as opposed to, the fact that it's probably a bit more complicated than that. A perfect example is Princess Diana's death. People are like, well, somebody, the royal family hired someone to kill her. It's just like the driver was drunk. We know that, and we know that paparazzi were chasing after them on mopeds. 2 + 2 = 4 in that circumstance.
Right.
People crash at high speed. The guy was drunk, and they're dead. And also then they get into the minutiae of the conspiracy, like, why didn't they take him to the nearest hospital? Why did they take him to the second nearest hospital? It's like, well, hospitals have this thing where they tend to keep all of, in a night time where they're thinking they're going to have a lot of injuries because people are going out and getting drunk and whatever. They tend to get all their specialists in one area so they can treat a specific type of injury with all of the experts in one place instead of having them dotted all around the place. But my other favorite one is when conspiracy theories give people too much credit. So the 9/11 stuff is very complicated, and there's a lot of stuff to go in there. But my favorite one, the sweeping statement, is that 9/11 was an inside job. To give that much credit to the Bush administration, who then went on to either deliberately or accidentally botch Katrina response so catastrophically that it actually cost lives. I don't think that they could have been as efficient as the people who are 9/11 truthers believe. I mean, there are elements of that are a bit wobbly and a bit like, oh, we've maybe not been told the full truth, but I do not believe for 1 second that the American government is responsible for killing 3,000 of its own citizens in an attack just to start a war with terrorists. Because the idea of America thinking, oh, we'll start a war on another noun, terror instead of poverty or drugs. This one will definitely work. We'll definitely defeat this noun. It's just so conspiracy. And the problem with conspiracy theories is when you look into them long enough and you do your research, it's really quite easy to debunk them. There was a wrestler on Twitter who was espousing a Breitbart article that said that 22% of Americans wanted a gender-neutral Santa, and he was saying that it was as a result of the collapse of social structures, and it was a terrible thing, and blah blah. So first of all, I knew this guy was an idiot. So I was immediately suspicious because he's a wrestler and dude just picks up on whatever Breitbart tells him, and I know what Breitbart are like, so I looked into the source of it, and I got about 3 articles deep when they credited where the source was. The article originally came from I think it was a Florida-based newspaper that had picked it up from a poll that was run by it was a graphic design company that are based in the UK that had 2,000 respondents, 51% of which were from the UK, 49% of which were from the US. So only half of the people who responded to the survey were actually from America. So that means that, say, about 1,000 people. And of those 1,000 people, only, let's say, half of the 22% were America and half were the UK. So that means about 11%. So literally 110 people out of 1,000 or so people wanted a gender-neutral Santa. Now, the reason this website were talking about this is because they were asking people if they wanted them to design a gender-neutral Santa for them to use in their cards, which makes sense. But the newspaper then took that to say, oh, Americans were involved in this, so we'll take this sample size of 1,000 Americans, 110 of which were wanting a gender-neutral Santa, and we'll blow that up and then add in the extra 11% that came from the UK, and then we'll apply it to 300 million people. So I told this, I showed him the resources, and he still didn't believe me. He was like, oh, so this is the source, I can look at it. I was like, yeah, this is the exact source they're talking about. He's like, well, I still think the liberals and blah, blah, blah. I was like, right, I'm blocking you now. I've done the legwork. He's still a fucking idiot. So
110 people is not even enough to sell out a dive bar show.
That is not. And that is like 110 people want an gender-neutral Santa out of 1,000. I can be like, well, yeah. That makes sense to me, that 110 people out of 1,000 people would want that, because there'll be 150 people who want a skinny Santa and 125 who want the fattest Santa on the planet. There's always going to be divergent opinions on stuff. So conspiracy theories are inherently bought into by, especially what people who buy into multiple theories. Like, I can believe one or two where you're like, I'm not 100% sure about this. I don't believe that aspect of it. That's fine to question stuff. It's okay to be cynical. That's what Noam Chomsky said. If you're not being cynical, you're not paying attention. However, when you buy into every aspect of multiple conspiracy theories, I tend to look at the people who do that, and you look at their past, and how they kind of were brought up, the relationship they had maybe with power structures in their youth, the people that influenced them when they grew up, I think you will find that they did not have the greatest relationship with authority figures. And that will be something that exists throughout their life to this day, to the point where they're banging on their colleagues' door calling them fucking communists or something.
Well, see, now that's weird to me, though. If they didn't have a good relationship with authority figures, why are they so in support of the systemic racism
I know.
within the police? And
Because they see it as
anyway,
rebellion. Because they believe that liberal elites control the world. When, if you've spent any time in America, not as liberal as some of the conspiracy theorists will have you believe. There are elements of it that are, but the control lies quite strongly with conservative powers in the same way it does in the UK. These are very conservative
right.
countries. So, what I my point with her was she's bought into these hook, line, and sinker, and it's become her entire life. So, in terms
Oh
of
yeah.
scoring, I'm gonna go. Because she's still around, I feel like she's been somewhat neutered. Her power has been somewhat restricted, thank God. And no one's going to want to work with
Oh,
her because who's going to want to be attached to that anchor, you know?
well, that's the thing, though, is that she's already pushing to jump on the 2024 Trump uh, run for re-election.
That's
Yeah,
which Trump? Which one's going? Is it going to be Daddy Trump or is it
Donald,
going to be
Donald again.
Donald again? Is he going to be like
Yeah,
80 or something by the time that rolls around?
oh yeah, there's some sliver of people that I think are shaving off their own sort of party on the right side there.
Ridiculous.
So
Ridiculous. If she wants to do that, that's fine. I'm happy to give this woman a 70.
okay,
I feel like if she were in a real position of power, so if she were the secretary of whatever, or the if she had an actual post within a government and she was espousing conspiracy theories, I would be very worried for the state of
right.
America. However, people get elected idiots are unfortunately too common in democracy for it to be, an aberration. So there'll always be one person who's a fucking lunatic in there, and they'll always be like, "Oh yeah, well, this is the price of democracy." That person. So I'm fine with her existing in that capacity because she gets to be the court jester and the distraction from the far more serious issues that are probably going on in the party. It's like, hey, look at this dancing crazy person over here. Just ignore the fact that we're taking away women's rights and all of this other stuff. So, yeah.
It is an interesting time to be in America right now, though. I tell you what,
It,
I don't know.
yeah, it reminds me that
It feels
there's,
very uncertain,
yeah,
you know.
it's always, the elements of uncertainty are cyclical. There was an artist called Paul Klee, I think it was. It's spelt, or it might be Clay, Klee. I guarantee you'll have seen some of his paintings. He was one of the forefront of the Bauhaus movement in Germany in the 1920s and 30s. Obviously, not a great time to be at the forefront of a modernist artistic movement in Germany. The Nazis were on the rise, and as soon as they got the opportunity to do it, they suppressed the Bauhaus movement, all of his artwork, all of his design, all of these incredible feats of modernism were destroyed in favor of no, we're descended from ancient Greek deities. Let's use that stuff. So he died as Hitler was rising to power in 1940 or something, when the Germans were sweeping through Europe. And I just feel sorry for that guy, because I feel like if only he'd lived another 10 years, he'd have seen the demolition of the fascists in Germany. So for people out there who are thinking, God, I really am sick of the time we're living in right now, and it's so uncertain. These things never last. There's always something major happens, like 9/11 or a financial disaster or something like that, and the automatic response of society is just extremism, and
Right.
it hangs around for a few years. Idiots come in, they make sweeping changes, and then people go, oh, what are we thinking? Let's just get rid of them and go back to being calm again. It just takes a bit of time. So we're still living in the post 9/11 world. Hopefully it's going to end soon. It's been 20 fucking years. It's time to stop being quite so crazy. So yeah, I'm happy
Well,
to
now
go with
we're
the 70 on her.
the COVID world now.
Yeah, we're in
So
the post-COVID world. This is definitely a post-COVID world. Hopefully that's the end of wars
I
on
hope it's
nouns.
post. From what I hear, man, it's just getting worse again.
Yeah,
started.
Same here as well. So that's your current person. My person is a little bit older than yours. This week,
There we go.
I have a 16th century Danish scientist, you could say, an astronomer. Again, an actually incredibly intelligent and amazingly qualified person who is definitely an idiot, and you will see why for multiple reasons in this.
All right.
I'd like to introduce you to the scandalous life of Tycho Brahe, and I'm going to mispronounce that multiple times. Tycho Brahe. That's been suggested actually by a fellow podcaster called History Obscura Pod. If you want to go to @History Obscura Pod on Instagram, you will find them there. You can listen to their podcasts on anchor.fm/History Obscura. They suggested this person. When they told me why, I was like, oh, that's great. I love this guy. He's an astronomer who reached the absolute pinnacle of his profession in the 16th century and fucked it all up, and then died in the most ridiculous way of anyone, including Gigi Allen and the wrestling promoter who was chasing prostitutes around naked, covered in baby oil and cocaine with a baseball bat. I don't know if you remember that guy. His death is as ridiculous as Adolf Frederick's, and it fits into the same realm as well. So,
all right.
I can't wait to tell you the story. There's going to be a lot of guff, so I will try and make my way through the unpronounceable Danish names. I do apologise in advance to the few people from Scandinavian countries who will be listening to this. I am terrible at pronunciation. I'm going to give it my best, but I'm uneducated and stupid, so don't expect too much.
Better you than me, because I would be offensive with how bad I would be. Not intentionally.
No, of course not. Okay, here we go. Tycho was born at his family's ancestral seat at Knutstorp Castle, about 8 kilometers north of Svalov. Yes, Svalov, in the Danish Scania. So there's a bunch of words there I don't understand, but Denmark, basically. Rich guy, Denmark, born.
Good.
There you go.
Thank you, because I had no idea what the hell was happening.
Born into a very wealthy family who had a fucking castle. That's really all we need to know, in Denmark.
Okay.
So there we go.
Good.
He was the oldest of 12 siblings, 8 of whom lived to adulthood, which is actually a decent average for the 16th century in that part of the world, including Steen Brahe, Sophia Brahe. His twin brother died before being baptized, which... he was a very precocious child, very intelligent. Can you imagine the kind of the conversations? How would the church answer questions from a child about getting into heaven when you aren't baptized in the 16th century? Like, how do they reconcile that? How do you answer that question from a kid?
That's a tough one right there.
Yeah, like, so you have to be baptized to go to heaven, but he died before he could be baptized because he was a child. And
Look, something shiny.
Yeah, look, coins! Yay! Tycho later wrote an ode in Latin to his dead twin, which was printed in 1572 as his first published work. It's a massive rich kid move right there. It's like, Mum, Dad, I've written a little thing about my twin brother. Oh, that's great. Let's take it to the family printing press and get it out to the serfs.
Oh, man.
No. For all we know, like,
good.
Well, yeah, but that's typical of rich people in the 16th century. It's like a poor kid could have written Harry Potter, and we would never have known about it because there's no way of getting it out there. Whereas now we have the internet, people are writing stuff all the time. It just obviously doesn't get noticed in the noise, but at least we have access to it.
Yes.
Tycho later wrote an I've just read that an epitaph originally from Knutstorp, but now on a plaque near the church door shows the whole family, including Tycho as a boy. So they've clearly got a lot of power if they've got a plaque in front of a fucking church. When he was only 2 years old, Tycho was taken away. I want you to read kidnapped, because he was definitely fucking kidnapped. To be raised by his uncle, Jorgen Thygerson. Brahe and his wife, Inga Oxer, sister of Peder Oxer, who was the steward of the realm. Something powerful, rich people shit. Who were childless. So his uncle had married this woman. They couldn't have a child, so like, I'll just steal my brothers. kid.
You got 12? I'll
You
take
go.
one.
Can I just have one? I just want the oldest one. You know, you've already done the legwork. Let me have that one there. That's going to be the easiest one to raise, no problem whatsoever.
Seems legit.
It does. Like, I guess that's how. I mean, Madonna got away with it, so why can't everybody else? It's unclear why Otto Brahe, his actual birth dad, reached this arrangement with his brother, but Tycho was the only one of his siblings not to be raised by his mother at Knutstorp. So
It's because he was asking what happens if you don't get baptized
Yeah.
and you die. They were like, you know what?
yeah,
Why don't
just
you
fuck
take
this
the
kid. Take him
brat?"
away. We're getting it. We're getting it on the bad standing with the church. Get him away. Raise him in a different castle. So instead, Tycho was raised by Jürgen Brahe's estate at Tosterup and at Tranakire on the island of Langeland, and later at Nice Behoved Castle near Odense. Odense, I know Odense. And later again at the castle of Nykøbing on the island of Falster. This sounds like something from Skyrim, the shit I'm saying here.
Well, I showed a little immaturity there when you were saying that one sounded like the town's named Nice Butt.
Yeah, it did. It did. Don't worry, there was a record temperature recorded in Northern Ireland yesterday, 32 degrees or something, and it was something like Ballykisscock or something like that. And everyone's like, that's made up. There's no way a place like that is made. But yeah, it definitely exists. Tycho later wrote that Jürgen Brahe raised me and generously provided for me during his life. Until my 18th year, he always treated me as his own son and made me his heir. So basically, as soon as he was 18, he got kicked the fuck out of the house. So basically,
He was asking too many questions.
yeah. Where's my brother? Why is he in hell or purgatory? Oh God, this kid! I can't wait till you turn 18. From ages 6 to 12, Tycho attended Latin school, probably Nykøbing. At age 12, on wow, very specific, 19th of April, 1559, Tycho began studies at the University of Copenhagen at the age of fucking 12.
There was a roll call that day.
Jesus.
That's how it made
Yeah, it must have been here.
specific.
Right, fine. Fucking hell. There, following his uncle's wishes, he studied law, but also studied a variety of other subjects and became interested in astronomy. At the university, Aristotle was a staple of scientific theory, and Tycho likely received a thorough training in Aristotelian physics and cosmology, which were very, very foundational until the Age of Enlightenment, when people were like, okay, this shit we've been reading for the last 5,000 years, maybe not the most accurate, so let's
Good
rethink it.
start.
It's a good start, and he was one of the people to rewrite the rules. So this idiot has a massive influence. He experienced the solar eclipse on the 21st of August, 1560, and was greatly impressed by the fact that it had been predicted, although the prediction based on current observational data was a day off. He realised that more accurate observations would be the key to making more exact predictions. Jürgen Thygeson Brahe, however, wanted Tycho to educate himself in order to become a civil servant, and sent him off on a study tour of Europe in early 1562. 15-year-old Tycho was given a mentor, the 19-year-old Anders Sorensen Vedel, whom he eventually talked into allowing the pursuit of astronomy during the tour. But basically he was like, right, I know my fake dad has told you that I'm going to become a civil servant, but I fucking love staring at the sky. Can I not just do that? Like, no, I'm getting paid to... Oh, come on, other fake dad, let me... Jeez.
That's why he's passed around this way.
I know. He's so annoying, this kid. Vedel and his pupil left Copenhagen in February 1562. On the 24th of March, they arrived in Leipzig, where they matriculated, which is fancy words for enrolled, at the Lutheran Leipzig University. In 1563, he observed a conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn and noticed that the Copernican and Ptolemaic tables used to predict the conjunctions were inaccurate. This led him to realize that progress in astronomy required systemic, rigorous observation night after night using the most accurate instruments obtainable. and he began maintaining journals, detailed journals, of all his astronomical observations in this period. He combined the study of astronomy and astrology, laying down horoscopes for different famous personalities. So that's how he made his money. He was like a kind of a horoscope predictor to the stars, basically.
Okay.
When Tycho and Vedel returned from Leipzig in 1565, Denmark was at war with Sweden, and as Vice Admiral of the Danish fleet, Jørgen Brahe had become a national hero for having participated in the sinking of the Swedish warship Mars during the First Battle of Åland in 1564. Shortly after Tycho's arrival in Denmark, Jørgen Brahe was defeated in action in June 4th, 1565, and shortly afterwards died of a fever. Stories have it that he contracted pneumonia a day after a night of drinking with the Danish king Frederick II. So he went out on the piss with the king. When the king fell into the water, I don't know if this is a canal or he just fell over drunk in a puddle or some shit. Was it? Oh, there we go. Yes, no, died of pneumonia after a night of drinking with the Danish king when the king fell into water in a Copenhagen canal and Brahe jumped in after him. Brahe's possessions passed to his wife Inga Oxer, who considered Tycho with special fondness. So she was like, "Oh, I quite like you, even though you're not mine. I'll give you some stuff." So yeah, it was a canal, and apparently jumping in a canal in those days was enough to kill you of pneumonia. So
yeah,
I don't know what was going on in those canals, but Jesus,
it was cold.
Fucking cold and full of shit, I'd imagine.
Is that real?
Oh god, I could love to jump in a canal right now. Jesus. This is where it all starts to get a bit weird by our standards, but by 16th century standards, kind of normal shit, really. In 1566, Tycho left to study at the University of Rostock. Here he studied with professors of medicine and at the university's famous medical school and became interested in medical alchemy and botanical medicine. On December 29th, 1566, at the age of 20, Tycho lost part of his nose in a sword duel, with a fellish Danish nobleman, his third cousin, Manderup Parsberg. If only they had Nerf guns or like YouTube boxing events back in the 16th century, and he'd have kept his nose. Really,
the family barbecue got a little out of hand.
It did, didn't it? Jesus, everyone getting their swords out. The two had drunkenly quarrelled over who was the superior mathematician. Fucking nerds.
Wow. Dude, violent nerds.
Violent, rich nerds who are well into maths. At an engagement party at the home of Professor Lucas Backmeister. Oh, what a great name.
Do you think that he only took off the tip of his nose because he made the calculations on...
Yeah,
like that
clearly the better mathematician, because he was like, I'm only going to take off the tip. Just the tip.
That's what it was.
Coming nearly to quarrel again with his cousin on the 29th of December, they ended up resolving their feud with a duel in the dark, which is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. You're rich, you're mathematicians, why are you fighting in the dark? It's like we're going to fight, but, we're going to do it in clown shoes, and I'm going to take this pillow to my fist.
Well, they weren't totally serious about it.
Apparently not, no. Like, we'll use swords, but we'll fight in the dark. It'll be fine. Though the two were later reconciled, the duel resulted in Tycho losing the bridge of his nose and gaining a broad scar across his forehead. He received the best possible care at the university. I bet he fucking did, the rich bastard. And wore a prosthetic nose for the rest of his life. I know, and this is really fascinating. Fake nose. And what do you think that fake nose is made of, Derek? Remember, he's rich.
Listen, not Play-Doh. He's rich. Clay.
Sorry?
Clay.
Now, I was hoping you'd go the George Washington route of, like, wood.
Wood?
Wood teeth. It's not wood, although a nice veneer. A really nice, good finish on that wood. Really sand it down. Get a really nice, kind of lacquer maybe on that. That'd look really good. It was actually made of gold.
Get the hell out of here.
So here's the thing.
Gold nose?
Gold nose. Sounds like a Bond villain again. So, so not only was it, he actually had two. He had a gold nose and a silver nose that he'd interchange when he went to social events. So if he was like, this event isn't quite posh enough, I'm going to wear the silver nose tonight. And oh god, the Danish king is around, the one who drunkenly fell into a river and killed my fake dad. I'm going to put on my gold nose for this. That is the weirdest sentence that I've ever said in my life.
I wonder if people were slighted by getting the silver nose.
I wonder if it was like, oh god, this party is a failure. He's only wearing the silver nose. Amazing. This is it gets weirder, right?
Okay.
A long time after his death, they exhumed his body. I don't know why they fucking did that, but people are getting exhumed all the time. I think Salvador Dali was exhumed because someone claimed to be his daughter or something. So they exhumed his body, and they found that the nose wasn't actually gold. It was,
oh, no way.
It was brass or bronze with a gold coat on it. The cheap bastard.
Dude, somebody sold him that, though, I bet you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no,
Like,
it's solid gold.
Solid gold, mate. Yeah, there you go.
Also,
they looked at the space array because they were like, how the hell has he got this thing on his nose? He can't just be jamming it in there. He used a combination of glue and other solvents to hold it over his fucked up nose. Another thing he used, potentially, because they found traces of it in where his mustache would have been, he used mercury to keep that nose on there.
That seems safe.
Yeah.
Not poisonous at all.
That's definitely not going to influence his future behavior at all.
Could you imagine what that, like, if you got solvents? Did he lose his sense of smell, I wonder, too?
Well,
Just
I didn't
sniff solvents all day?
I wonder, he probably would have done very quickly because those would have been very potent solvents, wouldn't they?
The original glue sniffer.
Solid gold glue sniffer. And so that's the first weird shit. Got so angry, and he seems like quite an angry guy, that he lost a drunken sword fight in the dark with his third cousin and then started shoving metallic noses on his face. First of all, it's like, Jesus, that's just out there, right? That is a story.
Yeah.
That's really weird. Okay. According to this, it was kept in place, paste and glue, made of silver or gold, and November they resurrected it, and yeah, there we go. So I was right. It was bronze, actually, as opposed to gold. On the 11th of November, 1572, Tycho observed from Hereward Abbey a very bright star, now numbered SN 1572 after the year it was found, which had unexpectedly appeared in the constellation Cassiopeia. Because it had been maintained since antiquity that the world beyond the moon's orbit was eternally unchangeable, celestial immutability was a fundamental belief of the Aristotelian worldview. Other observers held that the phenomenon was something in the terrestrial sphere below the moon. However, Tycho observed that the object showed no daily parallax, whatever that is, against the background of the fixed stars. This implied that it was at least further away than the moon. So immediately he disproved Aristotle's theory. So this idiot has just changed the world, which is kind of amazing. But then he keeps on fucking up, so we'll stick with it. So it's like it's hot and cold with this guy in terms of genius and stupidity. And because it maintained, let's see, however, this implied it was further away. He also found that the objects did not change its position relative to the fixed stars over several months, as other planets did in that periodical orbital motions, even the outer planets, for which no daily parallax were detectable. So, yeah. He basically came up with a new thing, and he published a small book called De Nova Stella, thereby coining the term nova for new star. He coined the term nova. So, again, that's a massive thing. The dude essentially invented the word nova, which is amazing.
Yeah. Which was my first car.
There you go. A nova, wow. I wonder if it's as glorious as the name suggests.
No.
No, probably not.
No shining star, it was not.
No shining star. Probably rusting star, potentially.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. We now classify the star as a supernova and know that it is 7,500 light years from Earth. The discovery was a decisive... What's this? decisive his choice of astronomy as a profession, Tycho was strongly critical of those who dismissed the implications of the astronomical appearance, writing in the preface of his book De Nova Stella, "Oh, thickwits! Oh, blind watchers of the sky!" So he's a bit of a prick as well. He's just really rubbing it in. I write and I've written a book, you fuckwits. So the publication of his discovery made him a well-known name among scientists across Europe. He became a megastar after this.
Yeah.
So far, it's kind of pretty awesome. His life, I mean, okay, he's got a fucking weird shit going on with his nose, but you know, he's now the foremost astronomer in mainland Europe. He's
you might say he's a superstar.
He's a superstar. He's written his own book. He's a Nova star. He's it's kind of pretty amazing, but it all starts to get fucked up now. So let's delve into that. Although Tycho admired Copernicus and was the first to teach his theory in Denmark, he was unable to reconcile Copernican theory with the basic laws of Aristotelian physics that he considered to be foundational. So even though he's disproved them, he's like, no, these are sacred. You don't mess with them. But you did. No, I'm allowed to, but not you. He was also critical of the observational data that Copernicus built his theory on, which he correctly considered to have a high margin of error, which it did, but it's still better than your fucking ideas. Instead, Tycho proposed, here we go, a geo-heliocentric system in which the sun and moon orbited the Earth. This fucking idiot. Oh. With all his accurate measurements and all his scientific theories, did not want to say this is a heliocentric solar system and the sun is the center of it. He was like, no. And we'll get to the reasons why he thought that. Tycho's system had many of the same observational and computational advantages that Copernicus' system had, and both systems could also accommodate the phases of Venus, although Galileo had yet to discover them. Tycho's system provided a safe position for astronomers who were dissatisfied with older models, but reluctant to accept the heliocentrism of Earth's motion because they didn't want to be excommunicated, basically. Right. They didn't want the church on their ass.
The compromise.
Yeah, he's like, here's your safe middle ground, like, even though it's wrong. It gained a considerable following after 1616 when Rome declared that the heliocentric model was contrary to both philosophy and scripture and could be discussed only as a computational convenience that had no connection to fact. You can talk about it, but only as a joke. You do not take this seriously. You laugh after it is discussed, and that's the only way you get to talk about the sun.
There you go. Talk about it in code, in joke.
And then giggle.
The way
It's okay if you giggle afterwards. If you don't, you're going into prison. So Tycho's system also offered a major innovation. While both were purely geocentric model and the heliocentric model as set forth by Copernicus relied on the idea of transparent rotating crystalline spheres to carry the planets in their orbits, Tycho eliminated the spheres entirely. He essentially helped on the path to discovering gravity, which is amazing. So Copernicus is like, nah, giant fucking crystals, mate. Giant crystals holding up all these planets like that. And he's like, no, they don't exist. We don't know what exists, but it ain't fucking crystals, you idiot. So good and bad again with this guy. His assistant, a name you might recognize, Kepler, as well as other Copernican astronomers, tried to persuade Tycho to adopt the heliocentric model of the solar system, but he was not persuaded. According to Tycho, the idea of a rotating and revolving Earth would be in violation not only of all physical truth, but also of the authority of Holy Scripture, which ought to be paramount. Believe the church, because fucking just don't piss off those guys. All right. And with respect to physics, Tycho held that the Earth was just too sluggish and heavy to be continuously in motion. What are you fucking talking about? It's so fat. Look at the Earth. There's no way that fucker's running at 1,000 miles an hour. Are you mad? According to the accepted Aristotelian physics at the time, the heavens, whose motions and cycles were continuously and unending, were made of ether and quintessence. This substance not found on Earth, was light and strong and unchanging and natural state circular motion. By contrast, the Earth, where objects seem to have motion but only when moved, and things on it were composed of substances that were heavy and those of natural state at rest. According to Tycho, the Earth was lazy. That's why it couldn't move fast.
Fair. Seems fair.
He's the flat earther of his day, even though he has the science to disprove it. Thus, Tycho acknowledged that the daily rising and setting of the sun and the stars could be explained by the Earth's rotation, as Copernicus had said. Still, he said, such a fast motion could not belong to the Earth, a body very heavy and dense and opaque, but rather belonged to the sky itself, whose form and subtle and constant matter are better suited to perpetual motion, however fast. So we are too fat to move fast. The stars are nimble. They are fucking fast, mate. You get them off and they are going. So that's another black mark on his name. After he published De Nova Stella, he became a huge star, and after threatening to leave Denmark for Germany, fucking power play there, King Frederick II granted him the title of the island of Ven, formerly Heaven, which I think is hilarious.
Okay.
In the middle of the Sound, about halfway between Copenhagen and Helsingør, together with financial support for the observatory and the laboratory buildings. All totaled, the amount spent to keep this fucker in Denmark amounted to 1% of the total GDP of the country of Denmark for that year. That is a shitload of money. We are talking billions in today's money. And Tycho called the observatory Uraniaborg, after Urania, the muse of astronomy. What a fucking nerd. Surrounded by scholars and visited by learned travellers from all over Europe, Tycho and his assistants collected observations and substantially corrected nearly every known astronomical record. Tycho was an artist as well as a scientist and a craftsman, and everything he undertook or surrounded himself with had to be innovative and beautiful, and he could do it all because this observatory was fucking massive. It was colossal. It was essentially a giant castle that the Danish king built for him. He established his own printing shop to produce and bind his own manuscripts his way. He imported Augsburg craftsmen to construct the finest astronomical instruments. He induced Italian and Dutch artists and architects to design and decorate his observatory. This guy is fucking rapper level. Yeah, he's like, bring on the art, bring on the crystal, bring on all the trappings.
He's like Money Mayweather.
He's the Floyd Mayweather of astronomy in the 16th century. This is fucking crazy. And he invented a pressure system to provide then uncommon convenience of sanitary lavatory facilities. The dude invented indoor toilets.
Okay, that's gotta be another positive.
Thank you. Thank you. You have saved my life and my ass, literally, on a number of occasions, sir. Thank you so much. Although they'd kind of been around, but not to the level where he was like, and maybe we'll do one on each floor. How about that? You know? So you don't have to run up and downstairs. Yeah. Uraniaborg fulfilled the hopes of Tycho's king and friend, Frederick II, that it would become the centre of astrological study and discovery in northern Europe. But Frederick died in 1588, and under his son, Christian IV, Tycho's influence dwindled. Most of his income was stopped, partly because of the increasing needs of the state for money. They were like, look, dude, we can't keep on spending all this money. People need to eat, and you're still getting people in from Augsburg to make your fancy chairs. It can't carry on. So, spoiled by Frederick, however, Tycho had developed a bit of an ego, and he actually demanded more money and was less inclined to carry out the civic duties required by his income from state lands. So he was like, I don't want to do that. I don't feel like doing that. Give me more money.
Doubles down on the F you pay me or I leave.
Yeah.
Good job.
and at this point, he's at odds with the three great powers: the king, the church, and the nobility. Tycho left Venn in 1597, and after short stays at Rostock and Wandesbeck near Hamburg, he settled in Prague in 1599 under the patronage of Emperor Rudolf II, who also in later years supported the astronomer Johannes Kepler, his former student, who was Tycho's assistant for a while, and somehow. So Kepler encouraged the emperor to look after this guy, even though Tycho had treated him like shit for years. And there is a theory that the mercury that was found in Tycho's mustache, he might have actually been poisoned by Kepler. There's just a little theory out there. It's kind of cool because it kind of makes it sound like a mysterious film and like a bit like Amadeus, where there's jealousy and everything. So he's alienated his countrymen, he's alienated the church, he's alienated all of his colleagues, and he still thinks that the Earth is the center of the solar system, but he has kind of helped invent things like nova and accurately kind of predicted gravity, and also helped improve indoor sanitation, which is amazing. So far he's done
some good things.
Yeah, so far he's done really amazing things. Also, some kind of stupid things, pissing people off to the point where they chop off his nose, shit like that as well. We can't forget about that. But this is the part that I think really earns him a great place in the halls, the annals of utter stupidity. Tycho suddenly contracted a bladder/kidney ailment after attending a banquet in Prague and died 11 days later on the 24th of October 1601 at the age of just 54. It's also said that Tycho had been suffering from an illness which had attempted to take care of himself with his alchemy skills, so he may have also poisoned himself because, of course, he had all this money and he was still like, well, I still want to try and make gold out of air. Why not,
Yeah, sprinkle a little arsenic.
Yeah,
in there.
A little bit of ricin in there. Let's get it all together. So he may have actually helped kill himself. According to Kepler's first-hand account, so Kepler was there on this night. Tycho had refused to leave the banquet to relieve himself because it would have been a breach of etiquette. After he returned home, he was no longer able to urinate. Except eventually in very small quantities and with excruciating pain. That night before he died, he suffered from delirium, during which he was frequently heard to exclaim that he hoped he would not be seen to have lived in this vein. Before dying, he urged Kepler to finish the Rudolphine tables and expressed the hope that he would do so by adopting Tycho's own planetary system. And Kepler was like, yeah, sure. No fucking way, he's wrong. Rather than Copernicus. It was reported that Tycho had written his own epitaph, and this is where I'm going to end it. He lived like a sage and died like a fool. That was his dying epitaph. If only he just wet himself.
He's
dude,
self-aware.
Yeah. He's a rich dude in Prague when you're at a banquet. I guarantee he's not the only person pissing his pants at this place, right? Just do it. You might live another 25 years.
Well, think about it. The whole reason that some of his theories were wrong was like out of tradition and etiquette beliefs.
Oh, yeah.
And then the thing that killed him was out of tradition and etiquette. So, I mean, there's his idiot moments.
Yeah. Tycho Brahe, hamstrung by society and etiquette, basically. Had he not been so rigid and actually maybe followed through with his own beliefs of being accurate in measuring and stuff like that, I don't think he'd be anywhere near this list. And also, if he hadn't been quite so hot-headed, he probably would have stayed in Denmark and made all these fantastic discoveries and maybe not lost part of his nose. And if he'd just been like, I used to have indoor plumbing. Have you got any indoor plumbing here? Or maybe just an open window? I really need to take a piss. Like, okay, you're on the out with the Prague social scene, but come on, dude.
That reminds me of that scene in that Steve Martin movie, The Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Oh, yeah.
You mind? Excuse me, will I use may I use the restroom? Go ahead.
And just sits
there.
Thank you.
Thank you. That would have been good enough.
Exactly. Like, just piss yourself. It's not like everyone's done it. you know? Especially the people at this banquet. They have people to hold buckets under them so they can piss into them, you know? They're that rich.
That's legit. I gotta get one of them.
Yeah, we've got to get a piss servant. Uh, so there we go. So when I said died in a similar manner to Adolf Fredericks, it's true because Adolf Fredericks ate himself to death. This guy was at a massive banquet and just didn't want to leave the table for the sake of etiquette, and eventually kind of didn't piss himself to death. But it's also got elements of G.G. Allen in there with the whole bodily fluid and stuff. But so what do you make of Tycho Brahe, the an incredible scientist and contributed so much to the world of astronomy and how we see the universe now, but also a massive fucking idiot?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he made an enemy of the church and the establishment anyway, but then still stuck to math that he knew was wrong.
Exactly.
Which is ridiculous.
If you're going to be on the out with the church, at least go with the stuff that makes sense, like a heliocentric universe, you know?
Right. Well, and if your math says it should be this, and I know that this isn't right, but this is the way it's always been, that's my least favorite thing for people to say. We do it this way because that's the way it's always been.
Yeah. Dude, you're a scientist. You have just discovered something. Go with it. It's what made you famous. Do it again, you know?
Go with the testing and results and stay away from the beliefs.
I know.
Ideas. That's where you should stick with.
Exactly.
Stick with the ideas and away from the beliefs.
Unbelievable.
I give him because the sanitary and clean bathrooms is huge.
That is massive. That is huge.
And the good things that he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because I think a gold nose kicks ass.
Fuck yes.
He gets cool points for that. I'm going to go with a 70 for him as well.
Sure. Okay, cool. There's a nice safe C for Tycho Brahe, who died in fucking stupid circumstances and lost his nose because he was a hothead, but was a very foundational scientist in what we understand to be the workings of the universe now. So I get that. However, your crazy lady, congressperson, what was her name again?
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie. I almost said Jonathan Taylor Thomas then, but that's a different person.
that would have worked.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, in a way, has achieved. You know, she got herself into Congress, and okay, it will have been through, you know, populist conspiratorial bullshit, but she has at least achieved something, you know? So I feel like that is one aspect of her that we can leave as a positive. However, the rest of it, kind of constantly negative. To be honest, when you said a woman and congressperson, I thought, oh, is it going to be Sarah Palin? And no, we've gone even darker than Sarah Palin. So...
Well... I couldn't get past the Pizzagate and the space lasers.
Jewish space lasers.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so amazing.
It just makes me laugh.
It really does. Who believes that many conspiracy theories? You know, and it's funny, I was going to mention this at the time and I just remembered. One of my favourite quotes of all time, and I don't always agree with Alan Moore, but boy do I love his writing. That dude has written some of the best fiction of the last 100 years. You know, Watchmen, From Hell, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, V for Vendetta. He's got a new book coming out called Jerusalem, which is something like 662 pages or some crazy shit like that. He said that, you know, people that believe, and he said, you know, Jewish banking conspiracies and lizard, human, reptile hybrids, he's like, a lot of them believe in these conspiracies because it makes them feel comfortable. Because despite the fact they're rebelling against what they believe is a controlling aspect in the world, at least they think there is control there. They think that someone is control of the world. What they don't want to realize, and what conspiracy theories hide, is the fact that the world is largely chaotic and always will be. And when he said that, I was like, well, that's it. You know, there is a comfort in believing that you are rebelling against some system or someone. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of the time, it is chaos out there. I mean, you know,
they want to believe that everything has a meaning.
Exactly.
Like it means something to be here. Otherwise, it's just sad.
Otherwise, what's the point?
To just be in the moment and have fun.
To just enjoy yourself. And if you take happiness in your idiocy, like no doubt Tycho Brahe and Marjorie Taylor Thomas did, then why not? And the main thing, and it's one of the things we want to get through in this podcast, is you want to learn lessons in life, and you can learn lessons from other people's mistakes, and that's absolutely what this podcast is about. But ultimately, don't be like Tycho Brahe, someone who is tied to etiquette and rules, despite the fact that you are a scientist and you are supposed to be there to disprove these things. And don't be Marjorie Taylor Greene. Is that her name? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Who just swings wild at fucking everything. Just there is a balance to life. And if you are calm and measured and you think things through, typically you tend to make less mistakes. Nobody is perfect. Nobody has ever made no mistakes. Even the Dalai Lama said that he wishes women would dress more sexy in an interview a few years ago. That was kind of a fuck up for the Dalai Lama, the enlightened one. So, I hope you take lessons from this and try not to worry too much about the world as it is in constant shift, because if you worry too much, you might end up not weeing and dying as a result of holding your pee in. Derek, what did you think of this week's subjects?
I learned a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah.
That's what I learned.
Yeah.
I heard of this story a little bit before, and
okay.
Finding out the whole his uncle took him, trading kids thing might have led to the whole stick to the rules, or that's the way it's always been.
Sure.
It brings a whole new angle to it. So
it really
I'm
does.
happy.
It shows you that there's probably an element of psychological trauma there that was never really looked into from a very young age, when he was taken from his birth parents and just never really explained, really. So
could have been a thing.
Yeah, definitely could have been a thing. I really enjoyed this, and I learned an awful lot of Scandinavian words that I never thought I'd be able to pronounce, and it's just been fun. I do like hearing about these people because it does make me feel better about my situation, because at least I don't believe in Pizzagate, for fuck's sake.
Right.
That
was my whole purpose, is I wanted to go off of something kind of fun there.
Yeah.
In a little way, because that's the way I look at conspiracy theories. I love them.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Not to go, oh, yeah, that's a thing. Just to go, that's a cute concept. This is interesting.
Yeah.
Why
not? So that's our show for this week. So thank you, everybody, for listening. We're on episode 13 now. We've had 26 whole idiots. Isn't that amazing? If you would like to reach out to us, we are on Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter, we are, I think it's Greatest Idiots, at Greatest Idiots. And on Instagram, we are at History's Greatest Idiots. We also have a YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can watch us if it's easier for you that way. You can watch me sweat profusely for an hour and 15 minutes while Derek sits in a lovely air-conditioned room and doesn't sweat a bead. It's amazing.
Yep. I'm special. See, I have to have air conditioning, though, because I'm thicker than you. So
also you're in Arizona, so it's like a thing that has to happen, whereas the West Midlands of the UK, typically not somewhere that gets 90-degree weather. So thank you, everyone, for joining, and if you'd like to reach out to us, please do. And remember, try not to be someone who believes every fucking conspiracy they come across, or who holds in their pee so much that the next time they pee, it's excruciating pain, because that ain't fun. Peeing should be fun. Or at least pain-free. Should be fun. Write your name in the snow. Enjoy yourself with it. So anyway, until next time, Derek, would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye, everybody.
Excellent. And we shall see you all next week. Goodbye now.